Okay, Sinadapi. I welcome you to Native Wellness Institute's, I don't know, 500 power hours. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday with Native Wellness Institute. We come to you every Wednesday just with some stories and some thoughts and some storytelling around uplifting your spirit, uh, coming to your own self actualization, your own being clean and sober. Um, all of the hey Julie Bissett, I just see a couple of names. We only have an hour, so welcome to Wellness Wednesdays Power Hour. I was driving. I'm at my niece's abode, Mariah Gladstone, Lily Gladstone, that you'll soon see on Killers of the Fire Moon. I think October 20th it's coming out. These are my nieces, and so she's doing her thing, and we're having a visit. So I'm doing the Power Hour from the Gladstone abode. And yes, Jackie Keeler, they're real Indians. Wait, so I think I want to start just with a short prayer. I went for a long walk in the woods this morning, and I jumped in the lake, and I always sing a calling song that was Edward and Muffet, Little Dog. So I'm just gonna say I think that right now in 2023, it's just good for us to pray a lot. So I'll just say Hios Jabatapi, Hio Nina, Hio Napi Natusi, Hio Akita Piwa, Spomukana Sixikai Kaina Batsapikani and Amskapi Pikani. Spomukana, the 580 tribes in the lower 48. Spomukana, the 250 First Nations in Canada. Spomukana, all the indigenous around the world. And Spomukana are non-indigenous, seeking water, seeking stuff from the earth. I ask special prayers for Mojave Desert fires. I ask special prayers for those who may not have air conditioning in over 100-degree heat. I ask special prayers for the animals and the humans that are left out, that they have good drinking water. Hios Jabatapi, I ask special prayers for the Kainai O Khan and all of those coming for prayers. Hio Ninna, I ask special prayers for Amskapi Pikani, all of the ceremonies going on this week. I ask special prayers for all the grandmothers that are raising grandchildren. I ask special prayers for the single parents raising their children. Hios Jabatapi, Spomukana, all of this earth and our changes that we're going through, that we learn to have food sovereignty and grow our own food, hunt our own animals, and that we're kind, that we're giving to each other. Hios Jabatapi, Hio Ninna, Hio Napi Natusi, Nogakimoka Nagaspumukit. So I'll just say Anya, that means I'm finished. I have a little friend here. It's a little kitty cat that was found during the winter with its ears frozen and almost died, but now I got Apus is how we say cat and Blackfoot. I guess it's my little partner right now, just being my friend while I do the Power Hour. So I'd like to for those of you, if you could just put in the comments your what you claim is your identity. If it's tribal, if it's part Scottish, part African American, part Peruvian, part French. I was, I was laughing because on my tribal ID card, it says I'm 43/64 Blackfeet or Blackfoot, and I always say that the rest is Neanderthal. And it's just the humor, but in within our 18,000 enrolled members here and 20,000 descendants with a quarter blood or less, everybody is in a really beautiful self-actualization process. Coming home, getting descendancy cards and getting enrollment cards and doing much more than that. So I think I want to just story tell, there's no exact answers, except because of tribal sovereignty, each tribe gets to determine who their citizens are or who belongs to their tribe. But what we have is we have a healing venue going on because we have a lot of native children. And I'm going to call them native children, but they might be 3, 4, 5 different tribes in 2023. And so there's a beautiful processes that are just happening with ceremonies of, I was just with relatives who are getting their Indian name later today or tomorrow. It'll happen. The ceremony's in progress. And so I went on a hike yesterday with 6 of my little relatives. They're the grandchildren of Dr. Sidney Stone Brown, who is my longtime friend of, 5 decades. And they're like 9 years old to, 17 years old. And so we did a lot of praying yesterday. We went up near Chief Mountain, which is Nenastical. And I said, today is like the day you're going to have, and then you have a sleep and you might have a dream. Because the name that you'll be getting, Roger Prairie Chicken Shoe Dance, and Charlene, they've already been praying and they've already, looked at your ancestors. But a dream might come, and that might influence what your Indian name is going to be. So the story I'd like to share with you is, as the badass auntie or just their aunties, we all got into vehicles and we 4-wheeled near the base of Chief Mountain. And there's a stone medicine wheel there that you can do prayers. And it's kind of interesting because I had a large bag of tobacco, and I told them, the spirits like a lot of tobacco. And they do, because it's the highest offering you can give to is Tabatapi, Yopi, or Tinkashala, or Akapadadia, or Mahio, or Buddha, however you call God. And the 9-year-old just took handfuls, and I told him I'm bringing you in the eastern door of this stone medicine wheel. And so there's ochre, red ochre, painted by one of my other little relatives, and Les Wolfchild helped with that, and many helped with that. The offering was rode horseback up there, and they sweat the offering while the stone medicine wheel was being built, and then the offering was put in the middle. So these are my young relatives, and they're just learning. They look up at Chief Mountain and they go, "What's that?" And I go, "Well, that's one of our most sacred Nenastico, Nina father, but it means like the Chief Mountain. It's the oldest piece of geological rock on this continent." And I said, and there's stories about when our people went and the top of that mountain, when there was a big flood, and the flood washed everything, it cleaned everything away, but the Blackfoot still survived because they were on the top of the mountain, and it was so high. I'm not sure how, I don't know, 12,000 feet. And so anyway, I was guiding them because just as as an auntie and as a good relative and ally, I said, when you enter, you're entering a really holy space. And so take your tobacco and go slow. Always take your time. You might put tobacco on some of the rocks. You might put it on the ground. You might go to the offering and you go inside the circle and just talk to Creator, just like you're having a conversation. And it's okay, but you must pray for your parents. And you must pray for the teachings of your ancestors. And it's a good prayer to pray that you keep the teachings of your ancestors in your heart. And if you don't know the teachings, that you learn the teachings. And walk slowly, and this is just between you and Creator. So you don't have to follow any human being right now. Just talk to him, go in and put your tobacco down. And then if you need more tobacco, go get it. Because you can just pray and just talk to God and just tell him what you're wishing for. Wishing that you get to be homeschooled, wishing that you get to go to college, wishing that you get to ask the right questions, wishing that you're healthy, wishing that their grandma in her 70s is healthy, wishing that the two dogs, that a little fat wiener dog named Mika, you can say prayers for Mika. And Nuka, they had a husky. You can say prayers for your dog. You can say prayers for your cat. And I said some words like that. And I don't know how long we were in there, but we lost track of time. And that's good, because you're doing the right thing when you lose track of time. And they just walk so slowly, just with such reverence. And they were giving each other space and saying their prayers. And I said, you can say it out loud. Or you can use it. It's called telepathy. Because that's how the spirits talk. They talk telepathy. They put these thoughts. They talk to you. And you can talk to them and there's no words. So that was some of our preparation. And then I said, and when you're done praying in the inner circle, you come out the east entrance. And then you start praying all the way around in the 4 directions. You come all the way around to where you started. And that helps you pray. And you can look at the mountain. And you can say, Nogakimoket, Nogaspomoket, Ninastiko, pity me, help me. And, and I'm just describing it because I realized with these, especially the 9-year-old and the 17-year-old and the 12-year-old, that this was a new beginning for their cultural identity. They also have Fort Bidwell Paiute blood, and their parents have been really good about teaching them those cultural identity. And they even had a little card, it said how much Indian blood they had and that they were Blackfeet and Paiute, and it's interesting. And then their dad, an incredible man, is Cherokee and Eastern Band Cherokee. So they were learning 3 ways. And so I said, well, we're here, you're going to learn your Amskapi Pikani, your Blackfeet ways. And when you cross the border, you're going to learn about the Blackfoot Confederacy. And so they were just so patient. They were listening to everything. And so that's part of what I want to share with you today. We all have to seek there's going to be several mentors there's going to be several elders in our lifetime that will come and teach us about our cultural identity. And the longer you live, the more elders and the more the spirits will come to you. They will reinforce what your cultural identity is. And so, then and they were listening, and I said, that's why we have 2 ears and only one mouth, so that we can hear, and we're supposed to be quiet. And it's not to be shut up and be quiet, but it's to listen, like with your third eye, your fourth eye, your intuition, your heart. Listen with your heart, because while we're here, something might come into you, that a thought. Tonight you might dream something. We're going to be hiking. We're hiking in 94 Fahrenheit. Where you might something might, because Natusi, the sun, is powerful, and the medicine, the sun dance, the Okan, is powerful. And we're at a place where, for centuries and centuries, you can go up all to Medicine Hat, you can go down to Yellowstone. There's all these stone medicine wheels, because it's a marker where our ancestors prayed. And now this was made June 1st, 2023. This is a new marker, so it's rebuilding, it's renewal. And so it was just amazing. So I wanted to start with that story, because we did the prayer, we lost track of time, and then we started on another journey. But some of the questions, I said, ask any questions, because they're used to being homeschooled. And some profound questions, because they were saying, like, well, how do we know the spirits are here? And that's a really good. So I said, see your dog, your husky dog, watch where he's going, because he's going near, there's a bunch of spirits around him, and look at how he's going around, and he's got a big smile on his face, and the husky was just like, big, because he can feel the good, it's only positive energy. There's nothing bad here, nothing negative. And so then I said, when you're walking slowly, you'll feel different energy. And sometimes when a spirit is near you, you can look at the skin on your arm, or the little tiny hairs will stand straight up. And then sometimes you'll smell sweetgrass. And then sometimes you'll smell flaxseed or sage. You'll smell. And then sometimes you just feel a presence around you. And so they were asking good questions like that. How do you know the spirits? So I wanted to just share that with you. So then one of the best parts was, there's so many best parts, and I guess my heart is full with these 6 young grandchildren and the grandma. And I just have to say, she can tell her own story. We cried a lot yesterday. Happy tears. We cried when we talked about our fathers when they were alive. We cried about when our fathers left us. We cried about our fathers that we know they're nearby. We cried about our grandparents. Oh, and we just cried because she just kept saying, I had these prayers since 1972, and they're coming true today. Because for every place, we stopped at Wild Goose, and there was a bull moose down in the water. So then, and some of us didn't. I had flip flops on, so I said, "Come on, let's go." We started running down to where the bull moose was. Go slow, be quiet. You have to be quiet when the animals are around. Be quiet. And so that we all snuck down there, and they were looking for the bull moose. And I said, and even if you can't, sometimes it's a spirit. Like you see it and then you don't see it. It's almost like a Moyitapi, Bigfoot, Sasquatch. But that moose energy is there. So then we had, they wanted to run down to the water, and I said, but say prayers. Don't go quick. Just stop and pay attention to your breathing and say the prayer. And it's good to say, Buksaput, because they wanted to see a bear too. So I said it's okay to say Buksaput, Yayo, Buksaput Baksikwe, Buksaput Siksisu. You can say it gentle, and they will come near you. And sometimes you can see them, and sometimes you can't. But anyway, we went and did that, and I'm sharing this. Welcome to Wellness Wednesday on Native Wellness Institute. It's just some thoughts about reclaiming and regrabbing your cultural identity. So I'm just sharing a story of the preparation of 6 young people before they get their Blackfoot Indian name. And so then that was, so we said a prayer there, and again we took out the tobacco. Yes, there was so much tobacco. Put out some tobacco. Put out, for the water. And then, the other questions. What do the water spirits look like? That was the question. What do the water spirits look like? And I said, sometimes when you look on the water and it's looks like diamonds on the water, that's water spirits. Sometimes you might see something swimming in the water, and you see it. I mean, some people, Loch Ness Monster. Yeah, that's a water spirit. Sometimes it might be a beaver. Sometimes some places might be a turtle. Some places it might be an animal you never seen before. But it's a water spirit. And they said, okay. I'm looking for I'm going to have to get up and get some water here. So we had a little sit down, kind of like a little talking circle about our sweet dippy water spirits. And so then other teachings, I said, a lot of like our oldest bundle is a beaver bundle. And in there we always have representation of loons, water animals, birds. There's even albino. You might have an albino. I mean, we went through, but I said there's water spirits. Sharon Day and Anishinaabeg Madays. They have a lot of water spirits. So then we got to have teachings of just talking about water spirits. And I said, but when you are in water, like if you're in a sweat lodge or you go jump in the lake, for that moment that you're in there, you're a water spirit. And they're like, us a water spirit. I said, because when we're alive, we have a great spirit inside of us. There's a life force inside of us. And so while you're in the water, you're a water spirit. So that's why when you're in the water, you should always say prayers. You should look around like, I was just watching the eagles. You should look around and as a water spirit, say prayers that the water is always there and is drinkable, that it always flourishes, that the underground rivers and the aquifers are renewed, that there's always plenty of water to let everything grow on the land, that there's always good water for all of the sea animals and the fish, that there's always saying prayers for, the whales, the big ones, the dolphins, the ling. I was telling him about the ling and in our area, and how the ling, as they call it, the poor man's lobster, and that because it tastes like lobster. I said, you say prayers for the ling, the trout, the salmon, all of these water spirits. And so I guess in this cultural identity, I'm talking to young people 9 years old to 17 years old around water spirits. Do you have anything to drink? Yeah, just Mariah checking on me. And I just wanted to share that with you. In cultural identity, how do we know who we are? And I think it's important. So I'll start with we had with the yesterday, and all of my relatives, we've been talking about Barbie. and I said, is Barbie indigenous? Is Barbie our new identity? Is Barbie, do you want to look like Barbie? Do you want to act like Barbie? Do you want to drive a pink Cadillac? Do you want to dress all in pink? Do you want blonde hair, blue eyes? So I'm laughing because one of the young ones, Melinda, she goes, I want to see the Barbie movie. And I go, it's good. It's always good entertainment, no matter what it's about. It's always good. But after you see the Barbie movie, let's have a talk and see what's the good part about it. What's the entertainment? And so I asked her a question. I said, how come Barbie never had no children? And the mother said, because Barbie and Ken didn't have no genitalia. That's maybe why they didn't have any children. So we were just laughing, and I said, well, is there an indigenous Barbie? What would she look like? So they started describing. They said, we'd like to see a movie where Barbie had the same color skin as we do. Right? That she's darker than a paper bag. And we'd like to see a movie where Barbie maybe has a ribbon skirt. She's got she has 50 different ribbon skirts with all different colors. A Barbie with just, something that looks like Bethany Yellowtail's designs. A Lauren Goodday. Or all of, we have so many. They would like to see a Barbie that maybe had black hair or brown hair, or that had braids, or that we'd like to see a Barbie with a res bun, where you put it with the res bun. We'd like to see a Barbie who maybe is dressed in camouflage and fatigues, and would like to see a Barbie that likes to hunt and maybe has a rifle for hunting. We'd like to see a Barbie who, because they said that in all of the history of Barbie only had one book, and the book that she had was How to Lose Weight. And so we had the discussion. That's a stupid book, How to Lose Weight. So they said, well, we'd like Barbie to have a whole bunch of books. We'd like Barbie to have indigenous knowledge books. We'd like to have Barbie read about indigenous ways of knowing. We'd like to have Barbie have a book about learning the language. We'd like to have Barbie who had books about tribal sovereignty, tribal food sovereignty. We'd like a Barbie who maybe lived in an indigenous house that was made out of a circle. would like to have an indigenous barber who lived in a teepee. You know? So anyway, we just redesigned, and I think we were seeking the cultural identity because now that Barbie is the summer hit with us all, just because like a lot of us, raise your hand if you like to go to big screen and get popcorn and just enjoy that. Exactly. So Barbie, you know, is an opportunity for cultural identity. And so I shared a story with them when we were young, because my parents were, you know, teenage parents, and they, at Christmas time, they got us a doll that was light complected, and we didn't like it, so we just like ripped it up and threw it away. And Mom said, "How come?" And I said, "Well, that doll doesn't look like us. I want a doll that looks like us." So, what is the beginning of, you know, cultural identity? So I want to share that story. Um, I want to first share with you the young people that I was with yesterday, and I guess they're just so strong in my heart and in my prayers. Is they were getting ready to get their Indian name, and so they were bearing gifts. They had brought gifts that their parents had collected to give to who's giving the name. They had prepared. Melinda was telling me, she goes, she has 2 ribbon skirts that she wants to wear. They're the young men. They were asking when we were hiking. You know, they were really wanting to just keep hiking and asking about plants, and they were saying, "I wish we had a book and we could press flowers. We could learn all these flowers' names." Because I'd say there's some sneezing root that's good. That was really good before the vaccine. That sneezing root helped people survive and not have to go on a ventilator with COVID. And then I would say there's some Miniguppy, you know, and then I would say there's yarrow, and there was all these, and then they'd say, "What's that little purple plant?" And I go, "Oh, that's knapweed. That's an invasive weed that came here and it kills everything." And they go, "But it's so pretty." And I go, "Yeah, weeds are pretty." I said, dandelions are a lot of medicine." And so there was just, we were in the process of them claiming their cultural identity by land and place. They were looking at the land, and they were looking at everything that grows on the land. And then I was sharing with them, you know, they were saying, "Well, what about sweet pine?" And I said, "Well, right down from here, there's a lot of sweet pine. It grows at 4,500 feet, a lot of sweet pine. We can go there, and I'll show you how to identify it." So in the cultural identity, I think one of our greatest teachings, and I wanted to ask all of you to make sure that you learn plant knowledge, and that what you learn, you share. So what culminated with us is we went up on Logan Pass, and we were talking about Natus Okotoks, holy rocks. I said, "See, all of this mountain, all this rock is holy." And when we were walking out on the ledge with the cable, again, I asked, I said, "Are you scared?" He goes, "Yeah, I'm really scared." And I go, "Well, this is good. Just hold on, because we're here. You're good, and you're not going to have that fear anymore, because we're here, and only good things are going to happen." And that Natu Sokotuk is holy. It's going to protect you. So in that cultural identity, you know, like of stones protecting us. Oh, thank you, Mariah. And so I wanted to talk. Let's talk a little bit about that again. That preparation for getting our Indian name and getting to know the land. I think she's got. Check this out: huckleberry lemonade. my God, huckleberry lemonade. Mariah's doing a cultural teaching here pretty soon, and so she's catering to some people who are visiting, and so they're going to get huckleberry lemonade. But this not too Sokotuks, when we were up there, I started to watch, and that getting that cultural identity. I think you have to get up off your bum, your booty, and go out into the outdoors. So with getting cultural identity, going to the Okon, going to the Ixkanaks, going to the Sundance, going to the powwow, going to any of the ceremonies. There's just so many ceremonies going on right now, is to get out on the land. And I guess part of that, getting out on the land and just experiencing the land. So so that it would, I just keep laughing because one of the young girls, there was a couple of marriages going on where we were, and they had women in white gowns and women with flowers, and the groom had a cowboy hat, and they were so then we started talking about, and in cultural identity we have to start talking about, so I started asking questions. I said, well, let me ask you some questions. Do you want to get married? And one of the young girls said, I don't want to get married. And so we just let her, that was her choice. But the other older girls, they were going, ooh, I want to get married. Look at her dress. Ooh, look at how beautiful she is. Ooh, and so then we had, yeah, that's a beautiful dress. Yes, I go, look at how they're posing. They're kissing. They love each other. It's a vow. So in this cultural identity, I think part of our ancestors' teachings is around marriage. And we're in that generation. My parents were an arranged marriage, born in 1937 and 1936. And we were witnessing a marriage happening. They looked non-indigenous. And so then we started talking about, okay, well, what are the cultural teachings of marriages? And because with Grandma Sid, I said, before Grandma was born, in our culture, men had many wives, and sometimes women had many husbands, and that was okay. Especially there was, sometimes all sisters would marry one man, and it wasn't a sin. And it was because of the way that we lived and the way that we needed to survive. And so then there it was all like, wow. So then we got to, in the cultural teachings, is making a vow to a person, making a vow to love that person, to stand by that person. So what I'd like to share with you is, I think in this contemporary age, we need to really write down the vows that we're making to each other. I shared with them, I said, I performed a marriage last year, and it was with two women, and then it was with two daughters. So the four of them, the ceremony had to be the four of them. And so they spoke from their heart. They made vows on how they would support their parents, how they would support their siblings, and how they would support where they lived and their livelihood, their jobs, their college, their education. They made all these vows. And so when marriage, think of two, either same-sex, or if it's a heterosex marriage, it's about a vow. And I said, in some of the vows, like, to death do we part, that's a choice to put that in the vows, because a lot of times something might happen where where you split apart. And so I gave them an example. They said, well, were you married? And I go, yes, I was married. But my the husband at that time relapsed and was drinking. And didn't look like he was going to stop drinking. And so I had to, I suffered a broken heart. I suffered anguish. It took a long time, but I chose my sobriety over that marriage. I could no longer stay married. I wasn't willing to do, unless I killed him, then it was death we part. Anyway, so then I said, no, that was an excruciating lesson because I chose my sobriety. And I said, even today, I don't even know if he's still alive. I think he is. I still pray for him. I loved him, but I'm not in love with him. So is marriage a vow of love? So then what we turned it into is marriage a vow of love. And then somehow and so I said to them, I said, one of the things is you're not married, but one of your longest, strongest relationships is with your siblings. And that I said, now, because you can't divorce your siblings. You can be mad at each other for a while. You can disown each other. But the older you get, you realize how precious your siblings are. How precious your brothers and sisters are. The blood ones are the ones you've adopted. It's like my friend Sid. We're sisters. You're siblings, but you cannot divorce your siblings. And so then in the cultural teachings, in this cultural identity, boy, you just think about, the colonizers, the outsiders, they try to take our children. That's why we have foster care, or the trauma. They give us so much trauma, so much poverty. They put us in a place where we can't take care of our children. And then how do we bring that cultural identity back? So this was our discussion. This is the homeschooling on cultural identity. So then I said, well, do you want to have children? And this is where it starts. And then one said, no, I don't want to have no children. And then one said, I just want 2. And I said, okay, well, why do you only want 2? Because she said, because it takes so much management when you have 6 or 7. And then I brought up, I said, well, in our families, in the 1900s, they had like 13 kids, 14 kids. What about that? And she goes, whoa, how did they afford that? And I go, well, they didn't even have cash. They lived off the land, this cultural. So then part of cultural identity is living with your environment and living modestly, or living, what is cultural identity? Is it, buying 500 ribbon skirts? So so when we were on our journey, I said, okay, well, we're going to Gaksami, 33 different kinds of sage. Right here, we pulled over and I said, we're going to harvest some sage. We're going to pick some sage. And this is high mountain wide leaf sage. And this is it's a very pungent sage. And so we, again, we got out the tobacco. I said, you gotta say the prayer. And you gotta talk to Ishtapatapi, yo pi, no guy kimukit, and pastaskan, this tobacco, this highest offering. You gotta tell Creator what you're gonna use this sage for. And if you're going to use it for healing, if you're going to use it for cleansing, if you're going to use it for sage tea, if you're going to use it for... and then so my friend said, she said her name, and she said she has a cancer. And I promised her that I would send her some sage from Montana. So then I said, there you go. So then when you take your tobacco, you put down the tobacco and you say her name and you ask Ishtabatapi Creator to heal your friend. And that I said the best prayer that you could ever have is to pray that someone has a long, healthy life. And so you pray for your friend, and you pray for those you love here, that they have a long, healthy life. And so, I mean, it was just incredible. So that cultural identity is when you go out and you go out on the land and you harvest and you say prayers. And we ended up, and I said, in here, one of the cultural teachings is you can't harvest when it starts to get dusk or dark. All the medicine must be got while the sun is watching you, while the Natusi is watching you. And so, God, that lemonade tastes good. So then we were just, when you have 6 or 7 people, boy, you can get a lot of medicine. And I said, but we can't be greedy when you get medicine. Don't be greedy. Just take enough to last you the year, or last 4 seasons. And then next year you come back for the new. And then there's a teaching, an ancestral part of cultural identity is when you have medicine, if you have extra, you should give it all away so that you can get new medicine. And you never hoard medicine. And so, you might light a smudge every day. You might, so then what are the teachings of sage? And so that was like, the questions, well, how does it heal you? I love it. How does the sage heal you? And I said, well, there's many, many ways, but one of the ways is you take it when it's dry and you make it into a ball and you rub it around to have good thoughts. You rub it around, your throat. You rub it around your head. You rub it around all parts of your body. You clean it off, and then you throw it over your back, and it cleans you off. It's always a cleansing. Even if this was sage tea, you could drink it and you get a cleansing. Comes out the other end, though. I said it's a cleansing. we were talking about the properties of medicine. Okay, so in this cultural identity, I want to mention one of the things that I see that is hurtful and painful is when lateral oppression happens across Indian to Indian, or someone says, you're not a real Indian, or you're a pretend Indian, or where are you enrolled, or all of these abusive, hurtful things. And so in that pain, when that is said, because, I was trying to think, when I was about 8 years old, and it was one of the first times I remember having shame. And I was with my little friends, and they were all diverse, but I was the only native, and I was around their parents. And their parents were saying that, those Indians, they get their first paycheck and go on a drunk and they don't come back. And they were saying, and those Indians, they just start drinking and they're just... So I started to feel shame. And I was just a young girl, and one of the adults caught themselves, and she turned to me and she goes, oh, I'm sorry, are you Native American? And just in that moment, because of the shame and the pain I had, I said, oh, no, I'm Filipino. I changed my identity. And it was because I had so much shame in what they were saying about Indian people. And then it hurt me. And now, I don't have tears about big, but I said inside of my mind, I am Indian, but I'm not a drunk. I am Indian. And when I get my paychecks, I'm going to buy things for my family and my parents. I had this incongruency going on, and so that today's power hour is we have to hang around people who help reinforce our cultural identity. So if we want to learn the language, hang around the language, get the app, go to your tribal college. There's just say prayers with that sage. Say prayers with the tobacco. It's tobacco. Please help me learn my language. Please help me retain it. And with my young ones, they were. I was telling them, the longer you say, "Please help me to learn my language," you'll start dreaming in the language. You might get a song. So hang around people who sing the songs. Hang around who you want to be. And that's why, if you live in the urban area, adopt people. Adopt. My family, when we went on relocation, we adopted Mr. and Mrs. St. John. They were my other grandparents. We had adopted badass aunties and badass uncles. We all adopted, and we learned Lakota ways. We learned Navajo ways. But at the same time, then that cultural identity, know who you are. Don't try to become them, because that's who they are. So if you are whatever tribe you are, learn about that tribe. It's I think that helps, because I think there's a confusion, like if a Martian came down, if a Martian came down here and wanted to be Indian and learned to speak Lakota, sing Lakota, went to Sundance and pierced Lakota, they're still a Martian. So it's better if they learn the cultural identity of the Martian, right? And I'm just being, if you can get the humor around this, our cultural identity is sacred. Our cultural identity is the teachings of our ancestors. So go up the 4 ancestors, go up the 8 ancestors, go up the 16 ancestors. Whatever their teachings are, learn that. That's the cultural identity. And why is this Wellness Wednesday, why is the Power Hour on cultural identity? Because they're now saying that your cultural identity is your resiliency. That when you know who you are less likely to think about suicide. When you know who you are less likely to experience mental health problems. When you know who you are, when you self-actualize and you know that you have good coping skills, that you know that you can just start dropping the prayer, that you can just light the smudge. I swear, I only have 35 and a half years sober, but Rose Abbott, I remember, Linda Herrera's mom, and others, Harold Belmont, I can always remember they said, when you don't know what to do, just light the smudge. When you don't know what to do, just light the smudge, and it will help you. And this too shall pass. Whatever, if there's a bad feeling, and bring the good feeling in. And so this cultural identity, and and I was just thinking, as I always a shout out to Native Dads Network and Mike Duncan, with Boys with Braids, but this is Badass Auntie with Braids. And badass, when I was it's still wet from jumping in the lake, when I was braiding the 3, you always pray for your mind, body, and spirit. It's a ceremony to braid. That's why when you braid other people's hair, it's an act of love. And some, it could be courtship. Woohoo! That's another. A cultural identity is, when you're with an indigenous or a tribal person, when there's a courtship. And it could be a long courtship. It's better if it's a long courtship. because then you get to know how each other are. You go and learn about each other. You stay 4 seasons in that person's place. You might be the same tribe, which is good. And but this teachings of the hair, and I guess I'll kind of, wind down. I've shared this before, in all of the power hours. In our culture, we always save all of our hair. We always whatever's in the brush or whatever's in the comb, and we save it. So I've been saving all of the hair most of my life, and I guess I learned this from Nikiwa, Agnes Ironpipe. And I'm making a nest, and I was just looking at it because I was having some humor with my mom. She's 84, and she's probably, when you make this nest of your hair, and it's everyone in the household, and everyone that has been in my homes, part of their hair is in that nest, that big bag that I have, is you make a pillow. And there's going to be a time, and I just know it's going to be for my mom, when my mom journeys and passes. And this is part of the preparation. It's a ceremony of anticipatory grief. Of course I'll have grief when she dies. But I was just looking at it. It's a big bag, and I was thinking, wow, look at all the prayers. I don't know. God, I was a teenager when I started gathering hair. So I was gathering hair for 50, 60 years. And it looks like it's going to be a nice pillow. And then I had this thought, I better, in the cultural identity, teach about hair. How sacred hair is. Don't just throw it in the garbage. Don't leave it on the salon floor. Keep the hair. It's sacred. It said it's our ancestors. And and there's times of our life where we want to do different things with our hair, color our hair, wear a mohawk. There's times when we shave off our hairs, for symbolism, or, there's times. But think about all this, what hair is and how sacred it is. So I wanted to, in this cultural identity, I just want us to, I'm going to ask you to stop hurting each other and judging each other on who's Indian and who's not Indian, and who's a pretend Indian. And let each tribe in their sovereignty determine who's their citizens and their constitution. But no matter what the color of that baby born, just do your best to get them in a cradle board. Do your best to breastfeed them. Do your best to teach them indigenous games. Do your best to prepare them to fast. Do your best to teach them the language. Do your best to keep the teachings of the ancestors alive. And that's where you'll gain the cultural identity. And when you're doing it, always do it with kindness, with gift giving, with sharing to each other. One of the greatest gifts I got yesterday was a little teddy bear from my new relative. And she said, this is you travel so much. Take this bear and travel with it. It'll protect you. And I just said, I said, you should see the teddy bear I've been carrying during COVID. It's missing one eye. It's all scraggly. So thank you. Now I have a new teddy bear. So I have this little, anyway, I put it in my truck. It's in my truck. And so that cultural teaching from the sincere, innocent, giving a gift to the elder. And then, of course, they gave me tobacco. We had so much tobacco. I think all you need is tobacco. Grow tobacco. I'm growing tobacco. One of my 8th plants since I harvest it and a new plant starts. Grow tobacco, offer tobacco, and ask for your cultural identity. And I think that's the Wellness Wednesday message today. And Native Wellness Institute, we're here every Wednesday. I want to thank all of you. Um, it's summertime. Everyone's on vacation. I'm gonna go and visit some relatives now, and I think I'm gonna go dig some roots. And so I'll say kitakito matsuno kitsikakomem. I love you very much.